After many weeks, many months of waiting for Bowen to finally get a power-up, to finally be in the spotlight, we finally have a chapter focusing on just that. I am so happy. I am so freaking happy to have Bowen back in the story, because don't get me wrong, I love my boy Escanor. I love him a lot. He's a great character. I love his insane strength and his one-liners. But Bowen is my OG. He is someone I love since the very beginning, and seeing him back, seeing him interact with Meliodas once again with new content, I'm happy. I'm ecstatic. I'm so happy with this chapter and this arc we're currently getting into, which that is what I want to get into right now. So, from the looks of it, it doesn't look like it was just going to be one chapter focusing on Bowen and Meliodas. It seems like we're legit getting into a Purgatory arc, which I am very pleased with, because honestly, I figured that this was going to get skipped. I really did. I think many of us can agree that we probably thought the whole Purgatory thing was going to get skipped, and I'm very happy to see that it's not, because honestly, it was one thing when we first found out about Purgatory and how it is, how it's like a hell, and just how savage it would be for Bowen. I was looking forward to seeing how he would, go through Purgatory to try to save Meliodas, and seeing how we're finally beginning a Purgatory arc, I want this. I wanted this, and I'm glad to finally have it. I do see how many could be potentially upset, though, with this arc's timing, and I could understand why. And the reason why I'm saying that is because of what was happening before we had the whole thing with Bowen popping back up. As you know, we had to where Estarossa, we had some good characterization going on with that man. Like, the man was just straight up crazy. Man was, choking Elizabeth, saying he was going to eat her, and he was just going insane. And basically, we got a cliffhanger on that. And the whole stuff with Estarossa was truly fascinating. I thought that stuff was really cool that was happening in the recent chapters. And now getting into Bowen, it's kind of like that stuff has been pushed to the side just for Bowen to be back in the story. Now, don't get me wrong, I am happy. I'm super happy. I'm very happy with Bowen being back in the story. But like I said, I'm a little bit upset with the fact of the way the timing was. The way we had the cliffhanger with Estarossa, because I was getting into that. I was really getting into seeing why he acted like he did. Why he wanted to become Meliodas. Why he thought he was Meliodas. Why he felt he was inferior. Which, we got some examples and the reason why, but there were so many things back and forth that we couldn't really understand. I just wanted more of that. So, seeing the way that scene was cliffhangered, I could see why people are upset with that, but let's just be real here. I think many of us can agree we're happy to have Bowen back. So, let's get back into that. So, Bowen, he gets an obvious power-up, or changes within his body in this Purgatory arc. So, as we all know, his ability, Fox Hunt, to be able to snatch someone's strength, to be able to sap their strength and then, compact it onto himself and get a lot stronger. We've seen this showcased in the past. We've seen him do this against the Ten Commandments, Galan, and pretty much beat the crap out of the man like it was nothing. And even though he did that, Bowen had an obvious weakness. He had a flaw with his Fox Hunt. He had an upper limit. He had a limit to how much strength he could extract out of someone, and his body could not take it, which resulted in him not being able to surpass it, and resulted in him being relatively weak in the grand scheme of things, and he wasn't able to compete with other Ten Commandments, and have really epic fights throughout the series just because of his limitations. And if you look very closely at the way this chapter depicts Bowen, especially when he starts talking about how he had to overcome the pain and the stress of Purgatory, it puts in perspective of how he might be able to use his Fox Hunt more effectively. Let me get into that. It's clear as day that Bowen's endurance has been increased. He may still be fragile to where his body can just be destroyed left and right like it's nothing, but it's very clear that at the very least mentally, or the way he's able to overcome it, he's able to endure it and not just, succumb to pressure and fall and topple over. He's able to endure immense pain, which makes sense for his type of character, which I will save for later in this video. But the thing is for him to be able to survive Purgatory for hundreds upon hundreds of years, and vomiting, bleeding, frostbite, all of that, disintegrating, it lets us know that this man's pain tolerance has went sky high. It's really high up there. And because of the stress that Fox Hunt did, that means he won't ever have to really worry about that limitation anymore. So if stress was the real big concern, like his body stress was the concern to using more power, that's not going to be a problem. Because even if his body does start breaking down or messing up, that's not going to stop him because he's able to overlook that pain, that immense pain from Purgatory, and just move on with his day, even sleep through it. So let's just say the equivalent, he might be able to get like, let's say 80k power level strength from, let's say, Escanor. Because even if his body starts to break down and get destroyed, that won't stop him. Because body stress doesn't matter anymore. So that was an obvious power-up. I think many can agree that that was a very apparent power-up by explaining that his body's been through so much that it's kind of in a way evolved to deal with Purgatory. Which, let's get into that. So, one of the big things that popped up with this chapter is that Bowen got a lot of pain tolerance. And this is very normal, actually. Humans in general, or species, depending on what we go through for a long period of time, our bodies will adapt. Mainly humans. Humans are a species that can adapt to many environments. That's why we can live all around the world in many different environments. Even if we will die of cold or heat or whatever, the human body can adapt. It definitely can. And also, we can build up tolerances to different things. There's some things in history where people have built up tolerance to poison. Some people have built up tolerance to pain. Some people have built up tolerance to being able to, like, hold their breath longer. It's just how the human body can adapt and how we can, you know, break past our limitations within ourselves. And so, Bowen going through so much immense pain for so many years, hundreds of years, his body adapted to the point to where he no longer feels it, which is a good and a bad thing. Because think about it like this. Pain lets us know that we are alive. If you can't feel pain, then are you really even alive? I mean, I know people are scared of pain. I know people don't want to feel pain. I don't want to feel pain, okay? But at the same time, feeling pain, feeling yourself pinch yourself, feeling yourself, you know, punching yourself, whatever, or taking a hit, you feel that. And feeling pain lets you know you're alive. It also kicks in the warning sensors within your brain like, hey, I'm in danger. I'm in danger. I need to get away. Whatever this is, it needs to stop. But because of his body going through so many issues, so much pain, he doesn't feel it anymore. He's able to sleep through pain. Which means that he can face tank pretty much anything non-stop. He's a legitimate zombie. That's what you can look at Bowen like. He is a zombie now. He will not be stopped by pain. Which is scary. Because someone that doesn't feel pain, that can endlessly charge you and will not die even the normal zombie way, getting shot in the head, that is some pretty scary stuff. But at the same time, depending on where Nakama-sensei wants to take Bowen's character in the story, if he really wants to dive in deep, it can lead to a lot of mental issues for Bowen. For instance, the man questioning if he's even alive anymore because of not being able to really feel pain, which once again goes along with Fox Hunt, being able to overcome his limits with Fox Hunt and exert his body to the point where it'll start breaking down. Now, let's also talk about his feats when it comes to his speed. Now, it's very apparent when the chapter first started, when he was chasing after that creature, that he couldn't catch it. It was way faster than him. But as the chapter progressed, eventually he managed to catch the creature and, you know, skin it and get its clothing, or its skin before they can wear it as clothing. And that lets us know that he was increasing his speed. So in terms of speed-wise, his feats, they definitely got improved. He's able to move a lot faster and catch creatures that are able to effortlessly move through Purgatory like it is nothing. Now, there is something I do want to point out. It is stated that Meliodas, the Meliodas that we're currently with, this, you know, one with emotions, this Meliodas is nowhere near as strong as the one that's in the real world. The one that is, you know, the edgy Meliodas, edgelord. And the reason why is because he's just mainly emotions. He's just Meliodas' soul. His emotions just taking, you know, corporal form. That's pretty much all he is. So, he is not strong. Which, that does lower Bowen's strength level from the last chapter. Because unless the shadowy form does increase their power in some way, that does let us know that Bowen wasn't that physically strong. For instance, he wasn't physically strong to be able to fight current Meliodas, or some parts of current Meliodas. For him to basically say that he wasn't as strong as his actual normal counterpart, because he's just emotions. So, strength-wise, I don't know how much Bowen has improved. That's left up for debate because of the explanation we got from Meliodas. But if there is one thing, like I said, Fox Hunt definitely got an improvement. Now, another thing to look at as well is the state of how these creatures evolve. I do want to mention that, which I think stood out to me amongst all the dialogue from the chapter. That was something that stood out. There's two species a part of Purgatory. There's a species that's like a soul thrown in or whatever that doesn't belong. They're not a resident. They're just like an invasive species. And then they transform into these shadowy creatures, which what we saw with Bowen and then Meliodas. They turn these shadowy creatures, which is just rage incarnate, and they're mindless. And then you have the other creatures which have evolved to adapt with the environment of Purgatory and be completely fine. And that dialogue at first, it's very simple. It's like, okay, that's understandable. That makes complete sense. But think about Bowen for a second, okay? Let's take a moment to think about Bowen. Bowen, yes, he is like an invasive species. He's something that doesn't belong there. And he did turn into like a shadowy fox thing in the last chapter. But at the same time, he went back to his normal self. Not because he just regained his memories, but also because he can't die. Think about it like this, okay? The reason why Meliodas is not dying is because he's a soul. He is someone that, can technically continue living forever. Millennium. Because he is immortal, technically. He's just a soul. Emotions. While Bowen, he has a lifespan. But since he's immortal, he doesn't die. And it's stated that when the shadowy creatures, they die, they turn into nothingness. They just ash, dust. That's all they turn into. Because they didn't really have a form to begin with. And so seeing how Bowen was a shadowy creature, and then we saw him die, but then come back, that lets us know that most likely he has evolved. His body has evolved into the creatures that can inhabit Purgatory. So that's another way to look at it. Bowen has evolved as a person. He most likely is a cross between both. He is a cross between the shadowy figures and also the species that lives within Purgatory. So I do believe that's going to add some more traits to his character once he does finally leave Purgatory. Now, speaking of leaving Purgatory, the Demon King is a big topic of debate with this chapter. So, the Demon King is apparently guarding the only exit to leave Purgatory. And this basically explains why Meliodas is able to walk around like whatever he wants and, no interruptions at all. Because the only way Meliodas would be able to leave Purgatory is to go through his father. So that's obviously not going to happen with how strong he probably is. And especially since he's weaker than his normal counterpart. So, yeah, basically, they got to confront the Demon King and somehow go through the gate to escape back into the real world. Which brings the question, if the Demon King had the door to Purgatory there all along, then it makes you really wonder why he doesn't just pop up into leave Purgatory. Like, he just doesn't leave like that, unless there's a lot of stipulations that we're really unaware of. I'm very curious when that finally does have some more details explaining that, but pretty much, though, the Demon King is going to be popping up very soon, and I am looking forward to that, seeing some dialogue from him and how Meliodas confronts him, and seeing what Bowen is capable of doing, because knowing what I just said earlier on in this video, Bowen might be able to snatch a lot of power from the Demon King to quickly overpower his strength and leave Purgatory, which would be pretty freaking cool if something like that did happen. But that's pretty much about it when it comes to this chapter, so let me know your thoughts in the comments below. How do you feel about this week's chapter of Taizai? Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? Please be honest in the comments below, and I love you guys. If you enjoyed my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. Chibi out.